Hi YouTube, the Reefer here. In today's video we're going to be looking at an update of the 93-gallon Reef Aquarium. As you can see, I have made some changes between the last update and this one. Specifically, I have added the yellow tang to this tank. As you can see, he's front and center. When I got him, I actually thought he was probably around the same size as the cold tang. It wasn't until I moved him from the quarantine tank did I realize he's actually substantially bigger than the cold tang. One of my concerns was that the cold tang was going to be really mean to it. I have seen this cold tang be aggressive. However, that didn't really happen. The first night there was a bit of tail swiping going on, but the following day when I checked in on them, the roles had reversed. The yellow tang stepped up and the cold tang has not really bothered him since. In fact, I noticed a couple injuries on the cold tang. One of his fins is ripped. Yeah, you can see here. And he does have a little scratch on his left side, I believe. So the whole reason I transferred the yellow tang so soon, he had been in quarantine for about 3 weeks. He's been treated for 15 days with cupramine. He looked fine. However, the thing with tangs is when they're exposed to things like carbon and copper, or they have a really poor diet, they'll start to get lateral line disease. I believe that's what I was seeing in the yellow tang. So after 15 days, I didn't notice any spots. I thought that was long enough for him to be in the copper, and I moved him over. So far, he's been in this tank for, I think, 4 days. So far so good. Things have been okay. I haven't noticed spots on either of them. So I believe things are okay. Next, if you guys are euphilia lovers, you probably notice I am missing some coral. In December, I sold my pink wall frog spawn, as well as the bubble coral that I had. They've gone to a pretty good home. Irene, if you're watching this, so Irene's from Kamloops, and she's got a nice setup at her place. So I actually felt pretty happy that she was one that picked them up instead of anyone else. If at any moment I thought that the coral were not going to be taken care of and they would have died, I would not have sold them, because I really did like those two pieces. The only problem was I'm out of space and the 75-gallon is not set up yet. At this point, I don't know if I'm going to be setting up the 75-gallon. It seems like I may have some options here, so I think the next few months we'll have to play it by ear. So we've removed a couple pieces, and I have sold a couple frags. And then here, if you guys remember the frags from my quarantine tank, they didn't look like they were doing so great in the quarantine tank. I believe alkalinity was low. If you remember the frags that were in my coral quarantine tank, they weren't looking so well. So I think it was 2 weeks ago I decided to move them into the main tank. They have been in coral quarantine for 46 days. That is one of the milestones. At 45 days, you could consider that they are probably going to be parasite free. If you really wanted to be safe, you'd have to go the full 76 days. But at 45 days, when I noticed that they were starting to reseed, I made the call, because I really don't want to lose these guys, to move them. and they look great. You can still see some skeleton on the war paint Bauerbanki. However, overall, when I look at how they're doing, I notice a lot of flesh in other areas are kind of hanging off the skeleton. And to me, that's a sign that the flesh is growing instead of receding. So I've had no indications of brown jelly whatsoever with these guys, and I think these guys are going to do very well. The other piece I have is the Acan Echinata, and we'll go see how he's doing right now. With the Echinata, I've noticed he was receding in the quarantine tank as well. His receding's not really stopped, and I'm not sure if that's because there's algae growing on the skeleton. So I'm gonna have to keep monitoring him. So Acan Echinatas freak me out. When I bought him, I thought the 75-gallon would have been ready, because if it was, I could move him into his own big space. I have seen videos of these guys actually eating other coral. I forgot what they used, like mesophilia strings or something. And they will actually attack other coral, and I believe devour them. So I'm really scared. He's tucked away in a corner right now, and we'll see what happens. I assume if he's not doing well, he's not going to be shooting out any eating tentacles, but once he does better, then I'm going to have to be careful. Here's a top-down shot of the front of the tank. Some really nice colors going on here. And here's a shot of the back of the tank. You know, I never talked about that guy right at the bottom there, but that is a colt coral. So that is a leather, and he's growing huge. So to take this video, the first thing I had to do was to watch my last video. And I know this guy's big, but it's surprising how some of these guys are changing from month to month. So this is the Marshall's denim on denim, and he's grown a new branch, and it's a big branch. So this purple style is really deceptive because every time I look at it from the side, he doesn't look like he's doing very much. But whenever I look from the top, from other angles, I realize how much he's grown. So another stylo right beside him. And this is one of the guys for sure that this pink lemonade's continuing to grow at a really quick rate. Its branches are growing really fast. This forest fire digi is growing really well as well. So it's almost fully encrusted this plug. And I think it's just a matter of time before it starts shooting out little nubs for branches. I haven't really talked about this pink guy for a long time, but this is a Bali shortcake. I've noticed in the last little while that its colors are starting to come back. So if you guys know why an acro may start to bleach or parts of it may turn white, please let me know in the description below. Because parts of it would turn white and other parts would be totally fine. Recently, it's still growing too, so recently I've really noticed that the colors are starting to come back finally. There is a Rainbow Monty, it's a little bit shaded. This is one of my pride and joys, the Red Diablo. So let me see if I can get a bit of a closer shot here. When I first bought him, he was already a mini colony, but he RTN'd. So I fragged him. And so this was grown from a frag. He's a really fast grower, and I'm really happy with him. There's the Yellow Hammer. And here's another guy I'm really excited about. In fact, I just posted on Instagram. You can find me at the Reefer YT, all one word. So the pinks are really starting to come through now. So I think he's done with his encrusting and now he's really just growing out and growing the tips, which are pink, as well as part of his base is getting pink. I always talk about this green slimer or Hulk acro, whatever you call it. He is showing phenomenal growth. He is the fastest growing acro in this tank. Here is the Strawberry Shortcake, beautiful coloration. Here's a Bali Green Slimer. And he's doing okay. And here's my Warfavia. If you haven't seen my video of me feeding Reefroids to this guy, I recommend you check it out. I will try to link a description below if I remember. If I do not remember and I don't link it, just check out the videos I've posted. I haven't posted very many, but he's probably the coolest feeding video so far. And he's growing insanely. He's growing insanely fast. Here is another one of my favorites. This is just a Favia. I don't know what subspecies of Favia. One of the things I forgot to mention is that I did reintroduce the fish in December, which means a lot of nutrients have been entering the tank, more than the tank is used to. So what that's resulted in is I do have some algae on the tank right now. Well, I do have some algae in the tank right now. There's a guy I don't really talk about. It's my red Monty. He is a trooper. I've had him on the ground, like on the sandbed for so long, and he's just encrusting out himself. It's really cool. To finish my thought on the algae, I'm not panicking. I haven't used like any dosing such as vibrant, and that's important, you guys. Like, don't, just because you see algae, don't suddenly change what you're doing. Don't make sudden changes to your tank. The only thing I did do was I did increase the light period for my macroalgae in my sump. And I think this was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And now I'm seeing the algae starting to turn white. It's not growing as quickly. That's an indication that it's not getting enough nutrients because the macroalgae is taking it and the tank is getting back into balance. So on the rocks, you can see there is some algae there. There is some crud. If I took a toothbrush and brushed it off, it would come off. But you gotta remember, like, that's also food for your pods in your tank, as well as other inhabitants in the tank. So every time you want to do something like this, you know, just remember, it's better to stay consistent. If you're going to make changes, make them slowly. Don't do anything too sudden that is going to throw off the balance of your tank, because this is like a tiny ecosystem. Okay guys, so as you can see, top down, the tank's still looking great in January. I do have some algae, I know it's dying. Therefore, I'm not overly concerned with that. Let's take a side view and we'll just look at some coral that I think has changed a lot and I like to talk about. Here's my rainbow loom. I talk about this probably in every video. He is one of my bigger acros, and what's exciting about him is when you first get them, I believe when they're encrusting out, they will just stay green. So when I first got this guy, he did have other shades of color on him, and slowly he just turned green, and then he encrusted out for a long time. I believe now he is finally shooting out the tips, and the tips are pink. Not only are the tips pink, you probably can't tell from this video, but some of the areas on his encrusting base have started to turn pink. Somebody on Instagram, so again, I'm on Instagram, the Reefer YT. I'm also on Facebook, the Reefer YT, all one word. Somebody on Instagram mentioned that later on, as this guy develops, I'm gonna start to see oranges, which is extremely exciting. So he's one of the guys, he's one of the main acros that I look at on a nightly basis, and I really enjoy watching and noticing the changes that are occurring in him. Let's move on to the denim on denim. The denim on denim is a Millie, and you can't see his hair is moving because I have the flow off right now. Okay, so the flow's coming back, and yeah, you can now start to see the motion. He's a really nice piece. If you look at the two new branches on the side, you'll see they're whitish in color. Those are new branches, and I've never really noticed when they came in, but they've come in really fast. In fact, if you look at his base, I just put that putty around him, I believe last month, when I was doing all the shelving videos and all that. Look at his base. His base is already encrusted out really far onto the putty. So the conclusion I can draw from this is he's a really fast grower. And yeah, I'm totally okay with that. He's not the brightest coloration, but he does add a bit of movement with his hairs. So in fact, what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to turn all the power heads on so we can see what's going on. From this angle, you can see on the right is the top right is the Marshall's Denim on Denim, the Millie I was just talking about. Right smack dab in the middle is the Pinky Dinky Millie, also from Marshall's Crazy Corals. I got a bit lazy with this guy. I should have added a base on him as well, but I didn't do that, and he's pretty much fully encrusted the plug that I had him on, or I have him on. So I'm not going to add a base to him. I'm just going to see how he adapts to being on that small frag plug, if he's able to branch out more without needing the base. One of the exciting things I've noticed with him recently is he's starting to shoot out new nubs. So again, nubs really get me excited, because those are all signs that the coral is going to get to the next stage in its growth and not just encrusting. So we'll have to see what's going to happen with him. But right now, in this light, I notice the pink. Unfortunately, it's not like a bright pink, but he's a pretty nice Millie. Next, let's look at, I do have a war coral that I want to show you guys. I believe the growth in my tank in the last 3 to 4 months has been substantial based on my experience from the previous months. And one of the guys I'm really impressed with is this war coral. When I got him, he was maybe half encrusted on the plug, and he took over the plug pretty quick, but the growth on the rock has not been as quick. It was only today, before I shot this video, when I was looking at him, that I realized, like, holy, he's grown a lot. So a lot more encrusting off of the frag plug onto the rock. And it's going to be really interesting to see how long it takes him to grow out. What I really love is the mixture of the red with the gray. And this is a different war coral than the one I have in my feeding video. So I have the other guy on the other side of the tank, and this guy's on this side of the tank, and he's got plenty of room to grow out if he can. So we'll see what happens with him. Just gonna give you guys a quick look at my Acan Lords. So the one in the left is a Bowerbankie, but the 4 on the right, they're all Acan Lords. And it seems like Acan Lords are everyone's favorite coral. Really prolific, they're easy to keep. I think they are a great beginner coral. If you're a beginner, you'd want to check them out for sure. Finally, we are going to talk about the newcomers. So guys, I just want to give you guys another look at these 2 Bowerbankies. They're both from Marine Experience. They looked okay in the other tank, but the lighting in this tank, like, things just pop way more under LEDs And I hope it comes through in this video that, yeah, these guys are doing great. I was concerned for a while there, especially with the war paint, because if you've seen my previous videos, you know how much I love it and how excited I am to actually own it. So after I put him in this tank, he did continue to recede a little bit, which freaked me out. But he quickly stabilized and now he's good. So let's get a different angle here. Yeah, just the red. This is a nice, vibrant red with the purple. It's just a stunning combination. I love this guy. The guy on the right's not bad too, but he's a bit of a brighter red with some teal, and he's a small piece, so it's really hard for me to really gauge how he's gonna do and what he's gonna become. With the war paint, I know exactly what it is, and we'll have to see with the guy on the right. But however, I will say this, the one on the right, when he first showed up, I was shocked at how tiny he was. But, and he was really faded, so I thought if anyone was gonna pass away, it was him. However, he's really surprised me. I actually think now that he's a really strong specimen, and you want the strong guys in your tank, because if anything should happen in your tank, a heater fails or something, the strong guys are the ones that are gonna make it. So if you guys think the war paint Bower Banky looks as good as I think, let me know in the comments below. And here's just some footage of the newcomers. They're still not best friends. I notice them fighting from time to time. But they do have different roles, and I hope they'll realize that. Right now, they're probably concerned with making sure that they have enough food. However, I do feed them twice a day. My automatic feeder feeds them twice a day, and I typically throw in some frozen food. Not daily, but every 2 or 3 days I will. And I'm trying to get them to eat nori, but they don't seem to understand the contraption I'm putting in there. So here's the yellow tang. He's huge. So I'm pretty sure he's a full-grown yellow tang. Just really nice, not getting bullied. He was really skittish the first couple days, but you can tell now, like I think he's more concerned about food than he is about me. He's still scared when he sees me move, he will still go and hide. However, he comes out really quickly. There he is. So that's my tank, guys. January update. Tank is doing really well. Let me just show you the algae, what I'm talking about. So I've got a few types growing. This is hair algae, I believe. And it's already turning white. So it's already dying. You can see behind there, I have a different type. It almost reminds me of Cheeto with how stringy it is. And it was doing very well for a while there, but it's kind of died back. And I did go in and I did do a bit of, I did pull some of it out. Other than the little bit of algae, the tank is doing fantastic. I can't be more happy with this tank right now. And I like to say just one thing. When I first got the tank, I was very happy with it. And then I read about the amount of space, the length of tanks. that tangs need. And that really bummed me out. And for a long time after that, I've been saying, well, these aren't the best dimensions. And yes, these are not the best dimensions. However, as the tank has grown and matured, as I've gotten equipment in there, as the coral have gotten used to the parameters, the flow in the tank, and they're doing well, I've noticed myself beginning to change my opinion on the tank. And I think I do like the cube tank. Sure, it's got some deficiencies. If you really like your tangs and your other bigger fish, you're not going to be happy with a tank like this. If you're okay with, the yellow tang has been said to be okay in a tank this size. The yellow eye coal tang is another one. Some of the smaller bristle-tooth tangs, so Tomini, they seem to be okay in a tank this size. So if you're okay with just those fish, and then you can get smaller fish, and what you like is the coral, this is not a bad tank for that. This tank is also a really nice height. One of the things you need to be concerned about, and especially with coral, is you need to get the right flow and a lot of it, depending on the type of coral you keep. And one of the aspects of getting the right flow is getting a high enough tank that can accommodate that flow. So you're gonna find it much more difficult to get the proper flow if you got a shorter tank. Okay, in fact, 24 inches, now that I know what I know, maybe 24 inches is a bit short, and if I ever get a future tank, I want 27 inches or 30 inches. That's going to be a pain for maintenance. It's going to be a pain for sticking your arm in the tank, but it's going to be, I think, a godsend for when you're trying to get the right flow in your tank. So that's one thing that you guys can think about. So I'm just rambling now, guys, so I'm just gonna stop it here. Thank you so much for watching. Thumbs up if you liked it, subs if you loved it. If you like this tank, let me know in the comments below. If there's anything you think I can change, any coral I should add that could maybe add a different dimension to this tank, let me know in the comments. Okay, and same with fish. I think right now I'm still thinking about the Anthias. I'd still want blue-green chromis because I see them in everyone's tank. And that's probably for two reasons. One, they're cheap, but two, they're pretty nice looking fish. So hopefully my next batch, I'll have a bit of a better luck with them. But thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time.